Alright guys, this is going to be an interesting video for many of you if you guys are anything like me. I'm not a mechanic, and I'm not a aftermarket guru or some sort of a racer or anything. I am just like you. If you're on the YouTube tonight or this morning or whenever, and you are trying to do some learning up on some Cvtech tuning, I am going to let you come along with me on my journey of tuning these things. And you are probably here because you have already gone to the Facebook pages and you have realized that ain't nobody on there wanting to help you. There ain't nobody even on there that knows what the F they're talking about. I'm sure you have probably already bought your Cvtech, and if you have not yet bought it, like I say, I'm no professional or anything, but I think that you will be fine buying the Cvtech clutch if you're running like a lightweight set of 28-inch and down tires. But if you're running like big heavy 30-inch, 32-inchers, and you're running an exhaust and all that stuff, you will have to tune this. And I've been banging my head against the wall, and the main reason I'm banging my head against the wall is because I cannot find anybody to help me. I have read and read, and I have learned some stuff, and I have talked to a few people, and some people, they don't know what the hell they're talking about either. They talk a big show, but so I'm gonna take you along with my journey, or on my journey of tuning my Cvtech clutch. Okay, so first of all, I'm gonna let you know my scenario. I bought a Cvtech clutch from a very popular vendor that is very widely advertised in the ATV YouTube community. And let me tell you, that's a mistake. Don't do it. Just phone some guy that's local. He'll probably get you a better deal, because these guys that are advertised, their prices are so inflated it'll make you sick to the stomach when you find out how much money you lost buying from these people that you thought you could trust, because all these other guys that you watch on YouTube buy from them. So anyways, I buy this Cvtech clutch. It was supposedly tuned to my bike, but you know, you got to take that with a grain of salt, maybe even a half a bottle of aspirin, because nobody can really tune your bike specifically for you and your bike. It's kind of something like, if you're not too picky, and like I said before, if you're just running 28-inch tires and you're just trail riding, maybe a bit of mud, a Cvtech clutch that's tuned by the vendor is probably going to be good. But mine is not good at all. I probably got 1,500 kilometers on mine now, and just wait a minute here, I'm getting thirsty. Oh yeah, I got like 13, I don't know, maybe 1,500 kilometers on my clutch, and it's working good, but it needs some tuning, because like I lost a lot of top end, I lost a lot of pull. So far I've just been doing a lot of technical trails and stuff like that, so it's been working just fine for me. But I started doing some testing, because it just didn't seem to pull, didn't seem to upshift like it should. So there's some tests that you want to do as soon as you get your clutch installed. And the first thing you want to do is test your stall, which is also called your engagement. So that is sitting on the bike. I believe you do it in high range, and this is how I've been doing it. Like, this is my journey. I'm taking you along my journey. If I'm doing it wrong, hey, leave a comment below, tell me I'm doing it wrong. But anyways, Yeah, so you put it in high range and you just slowly give her the juice there, and you look at your RPM gauge and you want to see what RPM you are at when that clutch engages the belt and starts to move your bike forward. That is your stall or your engagement. So mine was sitting at about 2,000 RPMs, and I think for me, for what I run, that's great. Anything higher, you risk breaking stuff, axles, U-joints, drive shafts, whatnot. I think 2,000, 2,100 is high enough of a stall. Oh, by the way, I'm running a 1000R 2019 Outlander. So then the next thing you want to check is your shift out. And how you do that is you get her on some good drive pavement, somewhere where you can get some good traction, and use high range and pin the son of a gun and watch your RPMs. And the 1000R that I'm running, it makes its most horsepower at 7,400 RPM. So that's kind of where you want your shift out to be. You want your clutch squeezing that belt. You want the belt on the outside of that clutch at your maximum horsepower and torque, and that's 74. So when I punch mine, I was waiting for it to wheelie, because like the stock clutch, this stock clutch, I could wheelie that son of a gun in high range that it would, you know, you'd have to change your pants afterwards, right? But with the Cvtech clutch, I was nailing her, and the RPMs were going right up and hitting the rev limiter for just a second, and then dropping down to 7,800, and they'd stay at 7,800. I mean, she was just a screaming, but it wasn't picking up speed real hard. Like, I mean, it was just screaming, and like I was still going to beat hell, but it wasn't pulling. Like I probably could have did it with one hand. So that tells me that I need some heavier weights. I gotta push that belt. I gotta squeeze that belt up to the outer edges of the clutch a lot sooner and a lot harder. So every clutch here, I'm gonna go grab hold of you guys and show you. This is my stock clutch here, so we'll go over a few basics here before we get into a whole bunch of crap, right? Okay, so this here is my stock clutch, stock Can-Am clutch. She's been sitting on the bench for a while, so she's a little rusty. The reason that most people go to an aftermarket clutch is because these Can-Am clutches are a two-piece clutch, which means that these things, they can spin independently from each other. So your inner clutch is what is attached to your crankshaft, and this one here is your outer clutch, or the outer side of your clutch. It's the part with the weights and all that. In some scenarios, it can spin or slip. So this here side is going faster than this here side. So really, you're only getting 50% of your clutch and of your belt grip, if you know what I mean. So here's the inside of your clutch. The inside of your clutch. Now this is dirty as heck. I never cleaned it because I was replacing it with the Cvtech. But these here are all weights. And as your engine speeds up, centrifugal force forces these weights up. All these little weights. You see them? Centrifugal clutch, or the centrifugal force will force them out, which will make this come out. Or actually, sorry, this doesn't really come out, but it pushes the inner part of the sheave in towards your belt. And this is your spring. So what the spring does, it more or less counteracts against your weights. So it is your spring that pretty much determines your stall. So everything has to work together. You really can't change one without the other. I'm sure there's certain scenarios where you can, but in my case, like, okay, so in my case, I want my shift out RPM to come down lower, so I need heavier weights. So if I just change the weights, what's going to happen is I'm going to have a lower RPM stall, because now the spring isn't strong enough to fight back the weights from gripping the belt. I hope everybody understands that, because these are the basics that you need to understand. So what I did, and I'm not going to mention any names until we get this all figured out, I contacted a dealer that's fairly close to me that I've dealt with before. I did not buy my clutch from him because I emailed him about the clutch and he never got back to me for like 2 months. And by then I had already bought my clutch somewhere else. So if you're a vendor and you're watching this, check your emails, because we're not all, you know, punks with our pants down showing our ass crack living in our mom's basement with no damn money. Some of us are pretty damn serious at spending some money. So there's another rant out of the way. So I contacted him and I said to him, if you sell Cvtech clutches, you probably have somebody that tunes them for you. And he said yes. And I said, okay, so if I can tell you my scenario, can your clutch guy tell you what parts to sell me? And he said yes. And I said, great, finally I'm getting somewhere. Says I did tell my scenario to another guy and he told me I needed to go to a heavier spring. And man, that's bull crap, because I'm already happy with my stall. I need to adjust my shift out, not my stall. So telling me to just go to a heavier spring, I knew right away, I'm done talking to this guy. He's blowing smoke up my arse. He doesn't know what he's talking about. So this dealer, or I shouldn't really say a dealer, he's a vendor. He sells tires and aftermarket stuff. I bought my farm mudding floorboards from this guy. Good guy. My son's bought axles from him. What else have I bought from this guy? I don't know. I've spent so much darn stuff on this bike, I'm losing track. So anyways, he told me he would sell me a spring and weight set, and I could exchange them for different springs and different weights until I'm happy with no extra charge. So I'm only gonna buy the spring and the weights once. That's what I wanted to hear, because this other dude that told me to go to a heavier spring told me he had over $400 invested in springs and weights before he got it right. So I don't know who he was getting his stuff from, but man, they took him. So one thing that this vendor has told me, so let's go over here to the workbench, is he's told me to start off by adding some weight and then getting a new shift out. And I said, well, that's gonna mess up my stall. And he said, yes, I understand that, but it kind of gives us a scenario on what adding weights are gonna do. So I already have this one out. So this is a Cvtech clutch, and I have it pulled apart, and these are your weights in here. Well, these are your sliders. Your weights look like this. They're just little pucks. And I weighed these ones, and these weigh 16 grams. And they pop right into these little holes here. You can pop it in. He says, take 6 pennies and pop a penny in each weight and test your shift out, and we'll go from there. And I'm kind of excited because I believe this guy knows what he's talking about. Like, I've already admitted I don't really know what I'm talking about, but I know enough that I don't think the wool's going to be pulled over my eyes again. Because you got to do your reading, you got to do your research, and a penny will fit in here. I've seen it done on YouTube. I believe a penny weighs 2.3 grams or something like that. I could be wrong. You can Google that yourself. One thing I didn't understand is these weights. They have it's rather 90 or 0.6. I'm thinking it's a 0.6 because I weighed it and it weighs 16 grams. Why the hell can't they just stamp 16 on it? I don't get it. Anyways, I'm gonna put some pennies in it. I'm gonna put it all back together, and I'm gonna do some testing on it, and I'm gonna find out what's gonna happen with more weight.
So I struggled to get my clutch cover off with my farm hunting floorboards. It looked like it was going to come right off, but it didn't. So well, it did come out, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get it in without wrecking the gasket. So I'm going to take my floorboards off. But if you want to know what your spring is, there is a number on your spring right there. Mine is 0951 1016. So I believe the first number is your, I call it seat pressure because I'm kind of an engine guy, and when you're doing valve springs you talk about seat pressure. But they call it your start rate and your final rate. So I don't know anything about this crap, so I'm kind of at the mercy of the professionals. So I'm just gonna do what he's asking me to do, and I'm gonna put 6 pennies, 1 penny in each weight, and I'm gonna put it back together, and I'm gonna do some shift out tests, and hopefully that extra weight with this spring, hopefully I can idle it in gear without it engaging the clutch all the time, because that's going to be a pain in the ass. But I'm just going to run some tests, and I'm going to get back to this guy, and he's going to send me the right stuff to start off with. It might be right, it might be wrong. Alrighty, so let's take our 6 cents worth of fix here and push your weight out. You got to pop your weight out. Just set it on the table. Get something like a screwdriver or a drift and pop that little puck out, and then stick your little penny in there. See how nice that fits in there? A 1 penny fix. And then take your weight, stick it in there, and pop it in. They go in there pretty good. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? So I'll just do that 4 more times, or how many weights are in this thing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'll do her 5 more times, and then we'll start putting her together. Alright, so you know what I mean now. Alright, so I got all the pennies in, all the weights back in. Now I marked this with a Sharpie, and I marked this side here with a Sharpie, so I know which way it goes in. And make sure you don't lose your little plastic sliders. There's little sliders there, and they slide on these ribs. So line her all up, which just like so, and that goes on the bike. Alright, so now that you've got your pennies in and your weights in, and you got your outer part there put together, don't forget to put your spring back in. That just slides in there. So one of the tricky parts here, and a lot of people screw up this part, and if you screw up this part, it will F up your clutch big time. You cannot tighten this thing up first without getting your getting those hex heads, or those that hex head and the hex groove lined up on this. You just can't throw it together and tighten it up. You have to line her up. Yeah, and it's not super duper easy to do, but it's very important that you do it, because you can do it.
You can do it. There we go. There, I do believe that that is lined up. I always like to put everything back the exact same way I took it off, even when it comes to bolts and nuts. Like so. Okay, so far it's idling, and it's not trying to spin the belt at an idle, so far I'm not way under stalling anyway. I've already warmed the bike up, so don't give me goddamn grief about revving up a cold bike. So I'm idling here at 1200, and I've already done a couple tests off camera, and I did notice that belt is climbing to the top of that sheave a hell of a lot better than it was before. You gotta love that Cvtech knock knock knock. I like it. It says that you got something underneath that cover. So let's rev it up. So, I don't know, I'm already seeing that I'm gonna have a lot more gear, because when I revved it up with the 16 gram weights, that belt wasn't coming all the way to the top of that clutch. So now I really want to test drive it, but I don't really feel like that clutch is safe open. I should probably put the cover on just to be safe. I don't want to sound like a little girl or anything, but if that caught my pant leg, that'd be it for me. And I don't know about you guys, but I like going to work every day and making some money. Alright, let's go see if we can do some shift out testing. Still ain't pulling the front wheels like it should, but let's try it again here.
The front end was definitely coming off the ground now. So now we got a pretty good baseline on what it's like to add 2 grams to each weight. So all right, but yeah, wow, night and day difference. Night and day difference. We are making leeway, guys, and you're making it with me.
Alright guys, it's been a great day. I've learned a lot. I hope you have too. The only thing that I should have did, I should have tested my stall in low range, because it's gonna make a big difference. It'll probably stall at a lower RPM in low range because there's less resistance. But hell, I'm happy with 20. I'm pretty sure it was stalling around 2,000, 2,100 RPM, and I'm pretty happy with that. But my shift out is still high. I seen about 7,600, so adding what, 12 grams to the clutch, it brought my RPMs down, my shift out RPMs down by about 200. And that's pretty much what I read on the Cvtech website. Every 2 grams that you add to each weight will be it said 1 to 200 RPM. pretty big gap there, but I think they're just kind of being safe. So I think I'm gonna have to add more weights. I could throw 6 more pennies in there and give it a try, but I think what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna contact my guy that I've been dealing with about this, and I'm gonna tell him my new scenario, what adding the weights did, and who knows, he might tell me to put another 6 cents to it, right? So if I was truly happy with this, which I could be, but it's not perfect yet, and I want it just a little bit closer to perfect, I'd button it up and ride it, and I tuned my clutch for 6 pennies. But I'm pretty sure if I add 6 more pennies to that, then my stall is going to be too low. So I think I'm just going to contact him, see what he thinks, see if I might have to beef up the spring a little bit. But man, I was really happy because that thing is now pulling the front wheels in high range, which it should, because it doesn't stock, right? So I'm not so disappointed now with overspending money on a clutch. And I'm really happy that I'm figuring this out, and I'm really happy that I can help somebody out there in YouTube land figure out their clutch too, because it's really frustrating because there's very little information about tuning these clutches. The videos you watch on YouTube, they call it a Cvtech clutch tuning video, and all they do is show you how to take it apart and replace the weights and springs, but they don't tell you why they're doing it or what their change is going to be. So I was sitting at about, I think when I checked my shift out the first time, I think I was at about 2,000 RPM in low range, and now I should have did a test, but now in high range on about 2,100 with an extra 2 grams in each slider. And now I'm shifting out at about 7,600, and I should be down to 74, so I'm gonna have to double up the weights and then get the proper spring to hold my shift out. So yeah, good day. It's been a good day. I learned a lot. I'm happy. I'm finally actually feeling a little bit relaxed, knowing that this yellow 850 ain't gonna spank my 1000, because that's never good when your kid is spanking your ass with his 4-wheeler. Because that's why I bought the 1000, because I was getting tired of him spanking me on my Yamaha. So alright guys, so I think this is going to be the end of this video. There's going to be a part 2 when I finally get everything buttoned up, and I'm going to let you know what my weights are and let you know what my spring rates are, and yeah, we'll go from there. We'll get her buttoned up, we'll get that thing torqued down properly. I just gave it 3 ugga-duggas with the impact, because I know I'm taking it apart again, and I was just going up the road and back. I was really happy to find some bare pavement where I wouldn't just spin out. But yeah, I'm back in wheelie mode and high range like it should be. So don't be scared to buy a Cvtech and tinker around with it if you're not scared of pulling stuff apart and put it back together. Alright, so cheers guys. Keep the shops warm and the four-wheelers fast.